Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a wonderful talk show today. Uh, Today, we are going to have Mr. Prabhakar Atla, CFO, and who is going to take the interview today? We have our very own Samit Patil, who is going to speak to Prabhakar Atla on some of those areas which you all would not have known. And it's a pleasure to start this talk show, the first of its kind, with Prabhakar and Samit in conversation. Associates, be alert. There's going to be a surprise quiz for you all. So while the sessions are going to start off, the session is just going to start off. Be alert on what's coming up because you might win some real good prizes. So, all the best for the prizes as well as enjoy the talk show which is going to come up. It gives a lot of pleasure to introduce the session. This is the first of its kind. Over to you, Samit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning and good evening, everyone. Uh, I know you are all excited as much as you are. For me, it is the biggest fan moment here, and I'm quite nervous. And Sonia saying that is the first of its kind. It makes it uh, much more difficult. But that said, I thought what better way to introduce Prabhakar before we start the conversation than to read out our founder chairman's words from his book. I'm pretty sure many of you must have read this, Engineered in India, From Dreams to a $1 billion Scient. I thought this could be the best way we could summarize Prabhakar. As in this book, in the chapter Riding High with New Verticals, I am exactly reading the words what our founder chairman has written. Quite early on, Prabhakar Atla began supporting Krishna in managing the account and was eventually responsible for the sales and relationship management. Prabhakar had joined Infotech as a marketing manager, but veered into and excelled in business development and sales. Over the years, Prabhakar rose to shoulder the responsibilities of multiple business units, including rail transportation. He currently serves the company as president and global head, aerospace, rail, and communications business unit. You should all remember that this is a 2-year-old. This came out 2 years ago, and at this point of time, we have Prabhakar heading another new department, that is CFO. There's further on going on into the book. You can read. I'll just add this, and then I will move on with the conversation. Prabhakar Atla, who joined as marketing manager, grew to become the president of 3 critical verticals. His vision, comprehension, and attention to detail brought a new dimension to the company's thinking. So, with this introduction, thank you, Prabhakar, for accepting to be part of this conversation. As soon as the mailer went out, there were multiple people who called me and who mailed me also and thanked me for having set up this conversation. And Sonia, as you are the producer, I think most of these thanks should go to you. But people are excited. There is a big fan following, and I am pretty sure that they're all having their own questions in mind. But folks, you will have to do with whatever I have on the agenda to ask. I've got this chance. As I said, this is my biggest fan moment. So welcome, Prabhakar, once again. And to start with the conversation, most of us, hardly any of us know about your growing up days. And many of us have worked with you a couple of years, many of them have worked for much longer, but during my interactions, none could tell anything about your growing up days. So if it would be nice if you could share us how was it growing up, and what were you aspiring to be during your childhood?
Okay. So, Samit and Sonia, thank you very much. I'll just say two things before we start off. Firstly, thank you everyone for joining this conversation. Thank you, Samit. Thank you, the team, for organizing this discussion. The second thing I'll say is that the words that you read from Mr. Mohan Reddy's book are more a reflection of his kindness, his generosity as an inspirational leader than about me as a person. And that's what I would say about the introduction that you gave to me, which I will find very hard to live up to as we progress through the next 1 hour. The question was about my growing up. My story is not very different from the story of millions and millions of lower middle class Indians, or that segment of population that exists everywhere in the world. My mother, actually, I come from a very small village in the coastal part of Andhra Pradesh in India. So, in a way, you can call me a peasant from the coastal part of India. My mother is born in a village which had about 500 households, 500 huts, so to speak. And this village was approximately 5 kilometers walking distance from the nearest bus stop, which would take you for a 30 minutes drive to the next town, or a 4-kilometer trek through a lot of woods to get to the nearest station. So very interesting. That was India in 1970s, I guess, or 60s perhaps. My mother was the very first kid in her village to graduate. So she had to walk all those 5 kilometers every day for all of her life, educational career, to attend the school, to attend the college, and to graduate, and to move out of this village to find a job to support her family. Essentially, what I'm saying is my background, my growing up is just a continuation of that journey of those lower middle class Indians with a lot of hopes, aspirations, ambitions, and efforts. And in that way, is not different from most what I guess you'll come across in for example, among our colleagues in Cyient.
But a little more, Prabhakar, about how was your schooling, and what part of the schooling influenced you, or which person influenced you, or your thoughts that helped you make different choices in your life.
Very interesting. I did not mention this. So when my mom graduated, she went and became a school teacher. And she was my school teacher.
Okay.
Which I don't think makes easy for any kid that your mom is a class teacher, but she was my school teacher. So my education was mostly in all those schools in the villages and towns in southern part of India. Education then was not as structured, perhaps even as detailed, or perhaps even as to some degree complex as it is today. It was more about reading than about studying. In other words, we were introduced to a lot of subjects early in our life which we had to read. And given where we were coming from, it was very hard for us to connect what we read, the reality of life. You would study history, you would study mathematics, you would study physics, but they were all theoretical topics. Not much of an option for people from the generation to really connect the theoretical part to what life really was. So I would have liked to say more interesting things about my education, about what important discoveries I made early in the life and how they influenced my life afterwards. But the truth was, I was just another kid from the village trying to get through the school where my mom was a class teacher and trying to understand what I was studying and trying to make some sense out of it.
So what did you aspire, Prabhakar? What was those early dreams of yours, what you wanted to be? With so little of exposure in those days, no internet, no social media, leave about that, no TV also, more or less. So what did you dream to be?
See, these are questions which are very relevant to the generation of today, I guess. But back in those days, 70s and 80s and 90s, especially, the journey of this country, India, and many countries across the world around that time, people in those countries, was mostly about a couple of things. It was one about an ability to survive financially, and secondly about social mobility, to be able to gain access to the next level of living. Not exactly luxury, but especially at least to some degree of comfort. So our own journey was basically about trying to find the best means to get to the next stage in life. And education, therefore, for us at that point in time, it continues to be, I believe, education, therefore, for us was a tool of giving us this ability to achieve the financial freedom or social mobility or intellectual emancipation, so to speak. So we were so focused on education, not because we like to study, not because we were very studious, not because it was so many things in life, but also more importantly, because it was the only tool people had available for social mobility. So dreams and aspirations, of course, I could have said I would want to become an astronaut or an engineer or a financial professional, so to speak. But we're very focused on what comes next year and what comes next, than a very long-term view of life. I'm sorry to disappoint you with my very simple answer,
No.
but this was the truth for the generation where I came from.
Yeah, fair. I think it's not very different from many of us who have just lived it by the day, lived it by the year, and then
Absolutely.
whatever the herd does. Okay, engineering, medicine, whatever is the color of the day,
Absolutely.
you just choose and take it forward, and that is how you are in engineering, and especially why electronics and communications. And I also see that you did a MBA immediately thereafter. Uh, why did you choose E&C when at that point of time I think mechanical was the in fashion branch everybody used to flock around the time when you would have done your engineering?
It's a very interesting question you ask. Firstly, the choice of engineering, I would have loved to once again say that it was fueled by my passion to make a difference, to solve problems with technology, and to make an impact on all those grandiose things. But the truth was, like you just mentioned, engineering and medicine were the two only streams at that point in time, and way back in 90s, which guaranteed some kind of social mobility and financial freedom at that point in time. Of course, you have to go through a grueling test. You should be competing with a number of people across the country to gain a rank and to get access to the education. But that was so for me, it was a more of the social emancipation goal than of anything else, the choice of engineering. Fortunately, I ranked okay in my entrance examinations. At that point in time, you're right, civil was very much into civil engineering, followed by mechanical engineering. Electronics and communication was just coming up. And at that point in time, we used to have the first electronic equipment that we used to use in terms of radios, right? And thereafter which came the televisions. So the technology that went into them made it very interesting for people like me to actually choose a career in that field. Little did we imagine that E&C would later on become computers and would later on evolve into what it is today. But it was the in thing then for people like us. So engineering, electronics and communication was an interesting time, 1990 to 1994 is when I did my engineering. By the time I got into my engineering, it was 90. And time I came out of engineering in 1994 in electronics and communication. Actually, we even studied analog communications as a part of our curriculum syllabus. So in 1994, when I did my project work, which we used to do at the end of engineering then for almost a year, the project work that I picked up, that was given to me rather, was digital image processing of satellite images. Because satellite images would come, they would be very garbled, and one had to write a software code to remove the noise in the image and to clarify the edges in the image so that you can process it further. So my project was on digital image processing of satellite image data, and we used to program in Fortran. Very interesting because 1993-94 we used to have 284 size machines. People have to now Google what a 284 is. And 484 was introduced just in 1994 for us.
Yeah.
In my entire college, in the laboratory, we had one 484. That one 484 was in a glass room. And you had to go to the professor and get a chit in advance to be able to get an access for 30 minutes programming time to the 484 to run your project for the day. So when I was doing all that, it was very interesting. And we used to get images from ISRO, from NASA to actually process and do the project. So at that point in time, it was cutting edge. So the natural progression for people who did engineering in 1990s was to pursue further education in engineering, most likely migrate to the United States of America, USA, pursue masters over there, and settle down in the US with the Silicon Valley generation, I would say. The truth of the matter for me was at that point in time, it was very hard for somebody of my financial background to be able to afford an education beyond what I was currently handling then. If I remember this right, the fees we used to pay for engineering when I was studying my engineering in 1990, 1994 was in today's equivalent of about $90 in a year.
Yeah.
Roughly. And it was a big sum for somebody like us. So at the end of my engineering, I made up my mind that I cannot afford this any further. I have to stop my studies after my engineering and start doing some work and contribute to my family. Because it was the option of trying to find education elsewhere in US was not open for me. But a kind professor of mine, who currently is the head of the college now, the principal of the college right now, came to me and said, look, having seen you, perhaps you could once consider taking the entrance examination for an MBA and see what comes out of it. I took him very seriously. I still take him very seriously. So I took the entrance examination and I still and was able to do well in the competitive exam. I got a very good rank, which gave me access to a college in Masters of Management then. But my decision was made that I still cannot afford even to pay the fee for the Masters in Management. But very kindly then a family friend of ours stepped in and he said that, look, I have two children. I don't want to study because they want to do business. But I want my children to study. So can I then therefore fulfill my wish by sponsoring their education for 2 years? It is the kind gesture of that gentleman who I remember very well today, who sponsored my studies for 2 years, which I had to partially fund by teaching part-time mathematics and physics later, which took me through the course of an MBA. So in retrospect, when you go back, these were all not decisions made on ambition, aspiration, career thought, or clarity of progression in life, etc., but based on the need, based on availability, based on opportunity, like you said earlier, one day, one step forward kind of decisions then.
Interesting, Prabhakar. I think many of us this is the first time probably many of us have heard this journey of yours. Moving further, I was going through your profile in LinkedIn, and then I encountered that before joining Cyient, you did join Jost Engineering Company. For those who are not aware, it's a 117-year-old company, and it manufactures material handling equipment or various different products. And the arc where you traversed, when everybody was getting into the railway bogies, taking to Trivandrum in for TCS or to Mysore for Infosys, you chose to be a part of a core engineering company. And in 6 years, from a product engineer, you went to head a BU, environmental technology, and you are in charge of sales, operations, as well as product management for the company in that particular business unit. It looks to be a very rich experience. What are the lessons that you took out from there and you carry forward further? And when the entire bandwagon was moving to Trivandrum or Bangalore, how did you go against the tide and
stay in Hyderabad?
Stay in Hyderabad.
A very interesting question, Samit. Jost Engineering, the company you're referring to, I have very fond memories of my 8 years of work I've done there. 8 years, yes, 8 years. It's a very interesting company, a very old company. Carl Jost, an Austrian gentleman, founded this company. One of the mandates this company had and still has is to bring technology available globally to Indian industries. What I mean by that is in the area of data acquisition, in the area of sound and vibration, in the area of environmental simulation and electrical testing, the Indian industry did not have access to a lot of technology that was available globally then, even today to a large extent. So Jost, one of the mandate it had was to represent a lot of foreign principals to offer their solutions in the country, to find problems in India that you can solve with technology available globally. So this was a mandate for the division in which I was working in Jost. And naturally it was engineering. And something that I really could relate to very well as a person. So I joined this company, and I joined this company in the stream of data acquisition systems. It's a very interesting time in the Indian industry then. So data acquisition is a very big topic today. And data is a different data you talk about today. But then the data we were talking about was physical data. What we mean by that is if you look at an aerospace industry or a space industry or automobile or any kind of industrial applications, there are a number of events which are one-off events. Like for example, you launch a rocket or you test an automobile. The very expensive events, you do it once in a while. When you have that event, there are a lot of data that you have to collect. For example, the sound data, the vibration data, the temperature, the humidity, the performance parameters of various subsystems. There are multiple channels of data information that you have to actually acquire in a real time with a very high precision and store it for later analysis, because you cannot repeat the experiment again and again. Data acquisition was a very big subject then of physical data. And traditionally, the Indian industry was using what was called analog recorders to capture this multi-channel data. You would have, let's say, 100 channels of data, and you would have one analog recorder the size of a cabinet, 6 feet by 3 feet, or 6 feet tall and 3 feet wide, a cabinet of analog data recording system with spools, which used to record data coming from various channels. This was the incumbent technology then in the country for acquiring data for mission critical applications. So JOS then was representing this company called Sony, which is the same Sony you all know, the Sony Precision Technology, it's a Sony Group company. Sony introduced a product called a digital acquisition system, a digital data acquisition system. The data recorder was the size of an A4 paper and just perhaps this thick. And it was a digital recording system in that it would take all the analog data, digitize it, and record it in a digital tape. Okay, now the first difference was you could replace an Ampex tape recorder of 6 feet by 3 feet with a A4 size recording system. That was the first advantage. The second was the size of the tape, which was basically big spools which you have to really store in a climate controlled environment. You actually put it in a small DAT tape. It still was a tape, not still a chip or a cloud today perhaps. It was still a physical tape. That was the second advantage. But the more important advantage was the signal to noise ratio in the analog recording system was approximately 40 dB, whereas the digital system, because of the sampling techniques, could provide 98 dB signal to noise ratio, which is a significant improvement in terms of the data quality and the analysis that you can do afterwards using a fast Fourier transform. So anyway, I'm digressing perhaps, but my job was to introduce that technology to India as a market. And as a part of that, in product management line, stream product engineer, I would travel across the country. I traveled from north to south. From in India, those of you in India can relate to it. Chandigarh till Cochin, Goa till Chandipur, all the 58 DRDO laboratories, all the government test laboratories, every place I had to visit. I had to carry my tape recorder with me, right? Which was new for the country, even for me at that point in time. I had to walk into this offices, get an appointment with the scientists, and then set up the laboratory there. There's an existing recording system. You bring in your recording system, you do simultaneous recording, and you do the simultaneous output, you do the analysis, and you demonstrate how this can be better than the other one to a group of scientists who have been using this recording system for quite some time. Very interesting in various terms. And thereafter, life took me to various posts in JOST, and you talked about my journey in JOST. But this was the crux of the work we were doing in JOST, bringing technology to today we use the word disrupt, but then we used to call develop or to enhance the existing systems. Number of learnings I had at JOST. The first was the power of technology evolution in itself, because I could see with my own eyes how we could actually evolve from an existing traditional way of doing things to a modern way of doing things, because technology has disrupted the way things were being done. That was the first lesson that I could learn in my real life as I handled all these demonstrations and the product development. The second lesson to me also was the power of learning. See, this was not something that I learned in my college. Electronics and communication, nobody taught me how to do digital data recording, so to speak. So I had to learn very quickly, and also learn very quickly about how to present the competitive advantage of what you bring in terms of the cost benefit analysis. So the power of quick learning was something which I took away as a very important lesson. The third was the opportunity I had to travel across the country. And in those days, this was way back in 2000, I used to travel across the country in trains. So all the crisscrossing, 2,500 kilometers towards north to south and hundreds of kilometers east to west was in trains. So in those trains, for example, one of my favorite trains was a train that used to go from Hyderabad to New Delhi. It was called, I think it still exists, Dakshin Express. The train used to take 36 hours to go from Hyderabad to Delhi. So 36 hours, you had no mobile phone then, no internet then. You're just purely traveling in a reserved class coach to Delhi. You meet a number of people, you see a number of places, you have a variety of experiences. So the ability to travel across the country, meet people, see places, learn from perspectives was a very important lesson that I learned as a part of my journey at Joost. So I can go on, but it's a very exciting part of my career journey then.
I can feel it. You're already excited. I think you must have had wonderful 8 years that you spent there. But again, we will move on, and some other day I would want to hear a little more. And I also now can relate, if at all true, your reading habit comes from the train journeys that you must have taken.
You're right, actually. So my company then gave me a corporate membership in British Library.
Okay.
Which then was a physical library. I mean, today the library is all digital, but it was a really physical library in near Hussain Sagar in Hyderabad. So every week I used to go with a rucksack, and there were 7 corporate cards we had, and I had 6 of them. So I could borrow 12 books, 2 books each. So for every journey I used to carry my data recording kit, which is a 20-kilo kit, and I used to carry my bag. We had no trolleys then; we were really handbags. Half of it was my clothes. The remaining half was 5 to 6 books. And then you get into the train, what do? You talk to people, you watch the scenery for a while, then what do? Then you really get to the point of focusing on learning other things in life. So you're right.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes so more clearer now. Where does this reading habit come from? But Prabhakar, I mean, when you started, what were you looking at, and why did you choose Cyient suddenly after such an interesting stint? I mean, what was it motivated you to join Infotech Enterprises, then Cyient now, and little bit, if it is something that you can share, how was your first interview experience at Cyient?
So I'll just sum up my answer in one line and say it was my first interview experience on Cyient, which was Infotech then, which made me join Infotech.
Okay.
Quite simply put. But sort of, to wind back and go back to why I was looking for a change then. At Joost, I was having a great time. With all humility, I can say 117-year-old company. I was the youngest divisional manager. I had 7 role changes in 8 years I worked over there. And things were going really well. They were going so well that for my next role, I had to move out of Hyderabad, either to the company's headquarters in Pune to my next role, or choose to go to Tokyo to work out of Sony's offices to handle the Asian geography as a part of Sony's strategy. It sounds very humorous right now to say, I didn't want to move out of Hyderabad then. I was so close to my family. I wanted to be in Hyderabad. So then I thought, okay, let me start looking for opportunities elsewhere, because in Hyderabad, this is what I can do, and I cannot move to Pune or to Tokyo. I've been to Tokyo, by the way, then. And then I came across, as you can see from my background, I am not from the services background, or I was not from the IT background.
Yeah.
At that point in time, Infotech was a known company in Hyderabad. Mr. Mohan Reddy already was known in the Hyderabad circles for creating a difference in the industry. So Mr. Mohan Reddy was somebody who I knew by reputation. So when there was an advertisement by Infotech Enterprises in the newspaper looking for a marketing manager for EDS division, as they call it, Electronic Design Services Division. And electronics is where I come from, and I could relate to some part of the advertisement. So I made an application. I made an application to 2 companies then, and Infotech was the second one I made an application to. And I was called for an interview. Within 1 week, I remember I got a letter, and also I got a call asking me to come for an interview. The interview date, I remember it very clearly today, is the 11th of November 2004 at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. The same office where we are sitting, Madhapur office. So I turned up at 1:30 in the afternoon, 1:45 or so in the afternoon, Madhapur premises. The place was not so busy then around Madhapur. You could not see much beyond Infotech office when you come over here then. I came in, and my first interview was at 2 o'clock with the then president of what we call the manufacturing vertical. We had 3 verticals then: manufacturing vertical, strategic business initiatives, and UTG as a vertical. 3 verticals, and manufacturing was basically engineering today. And SBA is what Pratt & Whitney today. Yeah. So the president of the vertical took my interview for about 1 hour, a very technical interview. He went into detail of what I was doing and everything. It was a very interesting interview. 3:15 or so I was done. And I was about to leave, and I went and met the HR person. Gopal Krishna was the VP of HR then.
Yeah.
Gopal Krishna Tadanki.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, Gopal, thank you for the opportunity. And then he said, wait a minute, give me 15 minutes. So I waited outside in the lobby of Madhapur office for 15 minutes. And at 3:30 or 3:45 or so, Gopal Krishna calls me and says, the chairman of the company would like to meet you once, Mr. Mohan Reddy. I was like, so Mohan Reddy and me, I come for interview of a marketing manager position. Why would the chairman want to meet me? But anyway, I thought, great opportunity to meet this gentleman and somebody who I know by reputation. I said, absolutely. He said, can you wait for 45 minutes? I said, absolutely fine. 4:30, I'll wait for the interview. I waited there till 4:30. 4:30 sharp, I was escorted to the 4th floor of the same building where we are today. Mr. Mohan Reddy's office is on the extreme left of the building. I walk in. And then we spent about 45 minutes. And in 45 minutes, the discussion was over. I came out of the room. It didn't feel like 45 minutes. When I look back at that 45 minutes, for the first time, it felt to me that I was not being interviewed. It was not an interview. It was not an investigation. It was not an exploration of my capabilities to do the job. I was treated like a human being. And I had a conversation with somebody who, despite his position, showed me respect as a human being. And it was a very, very interesting conversation. He talked about his ambition, his passion, his goals. He asked me about what I look forward for in my life, what do I do, and why do I do what do I do. It was a conversation, not an interview. I was thoroughly impressed. I felt really, really, really good at the end of it. So I go down after this interview at around 5:15, 5:30, and I was already beaming, as I'm beaming right now. I tell Gopal, thank you very much. You made my day. In fact, you made my year. This is November, you made my year. I'm very happy. Thank you very much. Irrespective of the outcome, I'm very, very happy that I could spend this time with you and Mr. Mohan Reddy. So I'll wait for your final decision. And then Gopal says, wait a minute, we would like to make you an offer. I was like, but you just interviewed me. So I got a call from upstairs that we can make an offer to you. I was thoroughly impressed. I was like, you make a decision so quickly? He said, yes. I said, thank you, then I'll wait for your offer. He says, no, you got me wrong. We want to make an offer to you now. Okay. So can you please give me 30 minutes wait in the lobby and I'll make an offer to you in writing. So here I was coming in at 2 o'clock. At 5:30, they say they're going to make an offer to me in writing. 6 o'clock in the evening, Gopal Krishna calls me and puts 3 sheets in my hand. I still have the letter in my file. The first letter I got on the 11th of November 2004. It was in my hand. I was blown off my feet. And Gopal was looking at me and saying, okay, now what do you say? I told Gopal, just one thing I'll say. If I go to this office, because I'm doing good elsewhere, I might have second thoughts about this. But I respect the decision that you made so quickly. Therefore, I'm making my decision right now. I'm going to take it. Okay. And I signed it then and there. It was about 6:30 in the evening. And Gopal smiled and said, look, I had to call up Mr. Mohan Reddy and say the boy took the offer because he said, let me know if he can make the decision immediately or he's going to ask for time.
Okay.
So Mr. Mohan Reddy was waiting to hear also about the feedback.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
So to me, like I said in the beginning, this interview was what made me choose Infotech as a company to work for.
And probably the founder chairman knew exactly what arc you are going to travel in this company then. Because the number of roles that you have, successfully shifted from marketing to sales to BU head, multiple BU heads of very different kind of industry verticals, and then taking up CFO. None of us could have imagined you taking up a CFO role. But again, each of these roles you have traversed and I think excelled in each one of them, contributing immensely to the company. And I personally know, I have read about it, I've heard about it, the rail business unit, you were instrumental in solidifying it, bringing in almost at a point of time, I think the rail industry had more than 10% of company's revenue. And more or less, we were the biggest players in rail industry. and in each of the things that you have done, you have excelled, Prabhakar. But changing these, shifting these roles, um, how easy was it, or how did you navigate? I am definitely sure it was not very easy, and it could have been very challenging. How did you navigate through these changes? How do you see a role like a BU head to a CFO? I mean, anybody would be. I don't know how many would accept even to take up a role like that. How did you take up those challenges and navigate through those challenges? And again, excel, right? I mean, at the end of it, I think the hallmark of your tenure is excellence in every role that you have performed. So, how does that happen?
You're very kind with your words, Samit.
No, Prabhakar, I disagree. I mean, this is what has happened. This is factual. So,
I'd still say you're all very kind with your words. See, there are a couple of ways to look at this. When I joined this company in 2004, when we talked about this earlier, we were doing 40 million in revenue. We were about 1732 colleagues, I guess, across the globe. 1732. So today, if you look at us, we're pushing 900 million as a group in terms of revenue, 40 million to 900 million revenue. And we are more than 17,000 people across the globe. So Infotech stroke Cyient has progressed significantly in these 20 years.
absolutely. Yeah.
So therefore, my journey is just a part of the journey of the organization. So mine is not an individual journey away from the organizational average.
Absolutely.
The company grew, the company expanded, the company experimented, the company explored. What we were doing then, how we were doing things then, and where we were doing things then have changed almost every 2 years. Every 2 years at Infotech and Cyient I've seen things change. What we do, how we do, from where we do it from. Except the culture and the values, everything changes every 2 years. So my story of my various roles or my journey in Cyient is just reflecting Cyient's journey in itself. I'm a part of the journey. Philosophically, I can say I was just the leaf carried away by the stream of water, if I were to visualize it in that way. That is one way of looking at things, and that's the fundamental element of the truth of the journey. The second way to look at it also is this, that the way I see it, and you talked about my engineering specialization in electronics and communication. If one thing I learned in engineering is that a system contains 3 parts, right? There is the hardware, there is the firmware, and there is the software. So when we join a company or when we take up a role, what we bring onto the table is this. We bring our hardware, we bring our software, the programming that we already, or the firmware, sorry. We bring the firmware, that which is already pre-programmed with us. Then the piece of software that you bring has to be constantly updated, upgraded, modified, redeveloped to configure the hardware and firmware to the application in which it needs to be deployed.
Very interesting analogy.
Right? If you don't do this, the piece of system is only going to be a piece of a classic in a museum. And I just landscape. That's the second way to look at things. There are a number of ways, but I'd say these two are my opinions.
It's a very interesting analogy. Yeah, But what was the biggest challenge, and a little more, if you would say, about how you navigated this challenge, or what for others on the call who are listening, who may be thinking of being relevant, successful in their professional and personal careers. What are those messages to navigate through these unforeseen circumstances or unimagined scenarios that you would get into, right?
No, absolutely. And this is the same for Cyient as an organization also. I'd say all these challenges are also opportunities for us to learn about cultures, to learn competencies, to learn problem solving, and to learn things that we otherwise wouldn't have been able to learn in life. These are all opportunities. And what I've seen works basis my experience and basis also watching a number of people. For example, you yourself as a great example of somebody who switched careers from engineering into HR, right? And you talk about me, whereas you yourself as an example of somebody who has experimented with various roles in Cyient. What I've watched in people who are able to make it work is 3 things. One is the curiosity to learn new things. The second is the humility to come up and say, I don't know everything, I'd like to learn this now. And the third is the power of simplification. Because whatever culture, whatever geography, whatever work stream, whatever skill set, whatever function, whatever role, as much as it has its own standards, its own tools, its own processes, its own frameworks, its own references, there is an ability for human beings to simplify things to the first principles. At first principle level, things are not so different. So my experience with people who are able to make these changes successfully more than I have done is their curiosity, their humility, and their ability to simplify things to the first principles.
Fair. I think the Alexander Pope LinkedIn post probably comes to the third one that you are talking about. I can relate it to now. Something in practice that you have put on LinkedIn, and I don't know how many people have read it in this. There you talk about communication, but I am imagining you are exactly meaning around when you say simplification, you are talking about that.
Because if you simplify, you can communicate, right?
Yeah.
See, we tend to use a lot of English when we don't understand much.
Yeah.
But when we know something very well, it only takes a few lines to communicate what we want to say.
Absolutely.
So simplification, in my opinion, is a very important aspect of people being able to navigate changes in their roles.
Absolutely. So I am sorry, the producer has said they want a break. I don't have a choice. So before that, I would just say we are on the eve of our 33 years of existence, and we will complete 33 years tomorrow. And Prabhakar will be completing 20 years on December 16th. So two big milestones coming around. But Sonia, you have the mic back. We will wait for your direction to continue the. I'm enjoying this thoroughly. So Sonia, back to you.
Thank you, Samit. We needed a small break just to inform. There are many questions which are coming up for Prabhakar, and we have many people wanting to know a lot of things, as you have mentioned, certain areas over there. So before we go to the Q&A, I wanted all the associates to be alert throughout the session in terms of post the rapid fire round, which is going to come up very soon. We are going to ask some exciting questions. Be ready. It's the fastest fingers first, and you all will have to give the answers for which you all will be getting prizes. After which we will have the questions put across to Prabhakar. Many of them have definitely asked a similar question in a flipped manner, which we will be customizing it and putting it across. So Samit just wanted to mention, I will take up the Q&A after the rapid fire so that I can consolidate all the questions in paucity of time. I just thought I will tell you that, and you can take over now. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. And we'll continue. I think I didn't want to lose the momentum, so I'll go back to where we left. And before that, I will also say apologies, Prabhakar. I know you love to keep the meetings to the stipulated time, but I may want 10 more minutes because there's so many questions your fans have asked me to ask. So I would be doing injustice to them. And I don't know when we will get you again back on this mode of conversation. So probably 10 more minutes for folks, for everyone who had more questions to ask. I'll try my best to include all of them. Going back, you talked about simplification, and I was very fortunate to be part of your staff meetings from 2016 to 2018. And one thing, what you talked about simplification, simple, clear, focused. Every meeting had very clear actions around everything that was discussed. And every meeting ended 10 to 15 minutes before time. It always used to feel, was it so simple? It was so clear, clearly, there are no conflicts, conversations are all meaningful. I really want to, and I think many of the fans have asked me to ask this question. How do you manage to navigate everyone around in a meeting room to common action plan and ensure that it is still stipulated in the time that you would have allotted?
See, the bottom line of everything you talked about is time.
Right.
The time, in my opinion, is a very beautiful, is a very mysterious gift of God, however you define God to human beings. If God has given 3 gifts to human beings, time is the second of them. So it's very important for us to really respect time. Not only our time, but everybody's time. So once we get to the point of saying that I'm going to treat time as a gift and I'm going to respect my time and everybody's time, then the thinking will start about, if I'm getting into a meeting with a number of people whose time is as important, in fact, even more important than mine, how do you structure it? How do you schedule it? How do we make sure that everybody knows before the meeting that this is what is expected? And if that is done before the meeting typically ends in time because you're prepared in the meeting. The structure is there, the agenda is there, everybody stays with what is expected from in the meeting, and everybody respects somebody else's time. And then automatically you can, actually most conversations, in my opinion, you can conclude within 45 minutes.
Yeah.
A structured conversation should not take, in my opinion, more than 45 minutes. A topic-specific meeting, in my opinion, should not take more than 15 minutes. Because before that meeting, you would have circulated the notes or shared the opinions in advance. You would have read and come to the meeting. You only ask a few clarification questions. And then you do something that you cannot do in an email or in a phone call. Then you're done.
So basically you are saying the preparation to a meeting is as much important as how you navigate through the meeting, and the preparation actually helps take the meeting to be very focused on the agenda and
absolutely.
But again, Prabhakar, here comes another point, right? There have been conflicts. There have been discussions which probably go beyond a certain time, but you sort of bring everybody back to a common ground, and that's another thing that we have seen. Okay, let me ask you this. I mean, is it that you have already known that somebody is going to talk like this, somebody is going to, and these are my answers up front, and you exactly know? Because it always fascinates how much ever discussions happen, you end up in that 45 minutes to come out with this discussion and decisions. So it's still, I mean, just being prepared for the meeting can be one attribute. There must be other attributes that you are looking through and ensuring that the meeting gets into an action mode. Anything else you want to add to the prep to the meeting?
See, in any meeting that I've been a part of, whether it is a meeting along with my colleagues and my team, or I being a member of a team and that meeting being effective, I've noticed that not only do people respect each other's time, people respect each other as well.
Okay.
So when you fundamentally respect the colleague sitting next to you, you might disagree on an opinion, you might have a conflict of opinion, but you fundamentally understand everybody is contributing towards the same goal. When that respect is in the meeting room, convergence is not a challenge anymore, because then people accept every opinion as a reflection of their opinion, and then look at how can we converge towards a common goal. So preparation before the meeting is an important thing. Respect for time is another important thing, but the respect of people in the meeting room towards each other is, in my opinion, the biggest contributor towards having any convergence or leaving the meeting open.
Okay.
The moderator, the coordinator can only do so much.
Yeah. Fair. And before I move into the next question that I had on my mind, I would like to say that probably if I have to make it a little more humorous, who is this BO head who gives goal to the HR, right? Prabhakar calls me and says, "What are your goals?" And I say in my mind, who is he? My boss is NAM, and but what I found very interesting, and I mean, and not on the lighter side, what I found very interesting is you ensured that everybody who collaborated, who are in your staff meeting, have goals aligned with the agenda that you have for the BU or the BU strategy, which is very unique. and which also motivated many of us from HR. I know for sure it's Vijay also has the same feelings, and I also remember Parul saying me this. I'm sure other finance folks also. All of us were party to one common goal, which you so easily made it happen. Which otherwise we would have like we were free birds. We were supposed to come and just sit there. So I just wanted to share this with others. But I mean that, and that also put us in onto a learning mode of our own and delivering on what the BU needs. So it was a really great experience to be part of your staff meetings, Prabhakar. And yeah, I mean, in paucity of time, I will move on. And before we start asking few more questions, a little more around Prabhakar as a person. One question, Prabhakar: what the experienced Prabhakar, if he had to join Cyient now, what the experienced Prabhakar now would tell the new Prabhakar who is going to join Cyient now?
See, the interview part was a very exciting part for me at Infotech then. I was very inspired. I was very motivated. It was not easy for me to leave my earlier job because I was doing quite well. My boss was very, very angry when I left that earlier company. He wouldn't even talk to me for the rest of his life. But anyway, but I joined Infotech. But the first 4 weeks, I had a little bit of a challenge. Because I don't come from the services background. I come from a product background. So product, it was technology, it was selling, it was many things that go along with that industry. Whereas this is the services background where I came into. And for the first 4 weeks, I was lost. I was really lost. There were some dark moments where I thought, okay, can I really do this? But it's just my pride that kept me from going back and saying, no, I can't do this in the services industry. Not about Infotech. It was a great company then, it's a great company now. But services as a business is a very different animal compared to product as a business. So if I were to go back and give an advice to the Prabhakar then, my only advice would be, which is obviously the way things unfolded, is that hang on, the best is yet to come.
Okay.
Would have been
Interesting.
that.
Interesting.
And I'm glad I hung on.
We are also glad you hung on. So interesting. Fair. Yeah, maybe slightly I'll veer off towards questions that I may want to ask more around you as a person and how you connect with all of us. Many a times we wonder whether you are a BU head or just a almost make us feel like a friend across whom we can talk anything or converse anything. There's so many examples that I can go on sharing. In fact, leave it. Not only we, in fact, our extended families also. Whenever you meet them, you make them feel almost like you are friend to them. And I think that humility and the way you connect with people, all the more enthusiast people around you is what I personally feel. But if I have to emulate, or someone else has to emulate this, how do you do that? I mean, how do you practice, or how does it come? Is it something that is within, or someone can practice to make themselves to take it up as a, because it really, the value system that FIRST brings, respect, the way you interact with all of us, and the way we feel about ourselves when we engage with you, is we feel very good about ourselves, and irrespective of whether you are in I don't think I've seen you in a bad mood, but how much ever provocative question somebody asks you, or they try to push you, I think you are always calm, composed, and that respect keeps on flowing. So how do you how can one go there? I mean, what is it that helps you be what you are?
See, again, I'll say you're very kind and generous with your words. What I would say is quite simply this. End of the day, as people, as human beings, when we really look at ourselves, we're very simple people. We're very humble people. We're very grounded people, all of us. We have capability, we have commitment, we have passion, we have empathy. We reach out to people, we give them things, we take them things, we interact. This is what we are as human beings. So what you just described just now is just nothing but practicing the same at work. Just being ourselves as human beings as what we really are. Of course, when you come to your desk, you have to wear a professional jacket. You got to define some emotional boundaries of what you can say and what you cannot say. Those things are anyway there. But beyond those few small things, end of the day, we're all normal human beings. And we don't have to be any different at work as what we are as outside the work. We can be our own authentic self. And at that level, we're all the same. We're all simple, grounded, humble.
But this is unique to you, Prabhakar, and it just makes us feel that how do you, again, I don't know, and especially the way you told about your childhood, it should all the more be the other way around, right? Somebody aspiring mobility upwards and having achieved so much, still feels everybody is same, is a very counterintuitive thing, generally how the world comes around. So is it a practice or it just naturally comes in?
And a different note, I'll say something I came across fairly recently, something I read. It says, education is progressive discovery of our ignorance.
Fair. Absolutely.
So the journey also is about that. So as you progress or as people progress the journey of life, I believe that they will discover more about themselves. And as we discover more about ourselves, we also discover how much more human we are than what we thought we ourselves are. So anyway, to sum up all this, it is just who we are as human beings. I personally believe that we have to be our authentic self as we come to work. And all you described is just a part of that, in my opinion.
So I'll rush you through a couple of more questions. People wanted to know, we have always seen you drive a Audi. We have always seen you drive a Merc. But very recently you've been driving a black Thar. For those people who don't know Thar is a sports utility vehicle, a mix and match between comfort and adventure. What we have seen Prabhakar driving many years when he has been in India now. And driving a Thar is something many of us wanted to know what's the background.
So why do I drive a Thar in India?
Absolutely. I know, a 25-year and a 60-year feel same alike. They want to drive a Thar. But what is it that makes Prabhakar drive a Thar? What is the adventurous part of Prabhakar? What other question that came in was, what does Prabhakar define fun as, and how does Prabhakar chill out?
Okay. So, I have to admit I'm a petrol head. I love automobiles. And in my opinion, they're great machines invented by human beings. You talked about two brands, Audi and BMW. I absolutely love both of those brands, especially a Beamer. A Beamer is a car where they put the driver there and they design the car around the person. So it's not that you get into a car and adapt yourself. The car adapts itself to you and it's designed to be an extension of you. So anyway, I used to love, I still love driving a lot on the autobahns in Germany. My official speed record was 274 kilometers an hour. Not just touching it, but driving at that speed for quite some time. And at that speed, I found a Maserati overtaking me from the left. I don't know what he or she was doing at that speed. But so coming back to the Thar question, two reasons why I drive a Thar. The first is a practical reason in Hyderabad. In Hyderabad, on the streets, there is a rule that is called the law of deterrence. You know, the law of deterrence in Hyderabad streets for driving goes like this. If the vehicle next to you can cause you more damage than what your vehicle can cause to that vehicle, then you give the vehicle the right of the way. If you can cause more damage to the vehicle next to you, you get the right of the way. It is what is called, Henry Kissinger called it the law of deterrence in a strategic context of nuclear deterrence. But in Hyderabad streets, that's what I've seen. So Thar gives me that strategic advantage of having a deterrence on the street. So people very kindly give me way. Because they have an opinion that this car can cause more damage to them than they can cause to this car. That's the practical reason. But the more emotional reason is this: this star is a present from my brother, my younger brother, and I'm very close to my family, especially for my brother. To my brother, he's my man Friday. He's an entrepreneur. He works 18 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, works very hard. And this car he bought for me as a gift because I liked it, is a fruit of his labor. And that emotion I respect a lot.
Okay.
That's the more emotional reason why I take it out. Whenever I take it out, I feel very good for my bond with my brother or his respect for me than anything else.
Interesting. Very interesting. We thought you like off-roading.
Oh, that I do anyway as a part of having a Thar, but the two other reasons are these.
Okay.
See, Hyderabad roads are anyway off-roads. So it's all off-road anyway on the street of Hyderabad.
Sure. So, in interest of time, Prabhakar, I had my favorite question kept to the last about your LinkedIn post, but I'll skip. I mean, your LinkedIn posts are very profound. They mix personal, professional emotions in such a way that other person generally can't ignore, but deeply think about what you are trying to convey. But this is a private conversation I'll continue to have with you. I believe I'll go to the rapid. I'll also constrain the rapid fire to next 4 minutes, and we'll make it really fast. And the first question that we have, Prabhakar, knowing that anybody can converse with you on art, history, psychology, quantum physics, under that spectrum, and in any under that, people don't stand 2-3 questions, but you go beyond and explain the subject. I have had some interesting questions on history. So my question to you is, if you could have a deep conversation with any historical figure or fictional character, who would it be?
Actually, quite a lot of them, I'd say. The list
One,
can go
you have
very,
choice
very
for
long.
one.
Perhaps recency effect, but I'd say Bill Watterson.
Okay.
Bill Watterson, as you all know, is a creator of Calvin and Hobbes.
Okay.
The very popular comic strip.
Yeah.
I take 2 doses of it every day, one in the
Okay.
morning, one in the evening.
Okay.
So Bill is somebody who I would like to meet. He's a very reticent person. He doesn't meet anybody anymore.
Okay.
He did his Calvin and Hobbes and he disappeared. He didn't want to be known any further beyond his work.
He passed away, right?
No, he's still there.
Okay.
He's recluse. He doesn't want to be met by
Okay.
anybody unless he wants to meet somebody. So he's one interesting person who I would like to meet if I get a chance.
Okay. And Calvin Hobbes is your favorite cartoon character then?
Of course.
Okay. Okay. Let me ask the next question, which is very similar. If you had to wake up one day and be somebody, who would that be?
Absolutely myself.
Okay. Interesting. What is your favorite thing outside of work? How do you basically like to spend your free time? Other than reading?
See, in my family, I have 4 kids. My eldest niece is 22 years old now. My eldest nephew is now 15 years old. My niece is now 5 years old. My grandniece, who is the daughter of my eldest niece, is now 7 months old. So my favorite pastime is to play with these kids or for them to play with me. More so babysitting the 6 or 7 month old kid, which I actually did over the weekend this time.
Okay, very interesting. I can't imagine, Prabhakar. It's not, I'll not. In the interest of time, I had something else to share, reflect. Okay, if you had to eat one dish daily for rest of your life, what would it be?
That would be a tough one to do, Samit. So, well, hopefully I wouldn't commit any fraud to send me to prison where I get served only one dish for the rest of my life. But if I were to choose voluntarily to pick up one dish that will be served to me the rest of my life, it probably would be, can I choose 2?
Go ahead, Prabhakar.
Okay. So one would be Italian dish, tristi pasta.
Okay.
There's 3 types of pasta in one plate.
Yeah.
So I get to eat 3, not 1. Second is obviously dal rice.
Okay. I thought you would say curd rice. For some reason, I had guessed it. What is your favorite color, Prabhakar? We always see you in blue and white. Blue or white. Beyond this, any color, or these are your favorite colors?
Actually, I don't have any favorite color that I would recollect, but most times I tend to use purple as a part of my presentation. So perhaps subconsciously somewhere I relate better to purple than to anything else. Maybe.
Okay. We've never seen you in purple. Okay, we will we'll move on. We also have heard that you generally take your guests to countryside gourmet restaurants in Germany, and you also talk about it on LinkedIn a lot. What is your association with? It looks like what's your association with food?
See, just like language, I think food is a celebration of life.
Okay,
That's my view of
fair.
just as language. We have to respect it.
Okay,
We have to really enjoy it. We have to appreciate it. We have to enjoy it because it is what infuses life into all of us.
fair. I think the last question that goes from my side, Sonia, and then I hand it over to you. Who is your favorite? I had a bundle of questions, but I ensured that I don't end up asking this, so nobody to blame here. Who is your favorite superhero and why?
Superheroes. I'm not much of a superhero.
That is why this question comes to you. You would we expected you saying this, Prabhakar.
Well, I could say I don't really watch superhero movies. Don't really do them because I can't quite. Okay, I'll leave it there. But in my opinion, the better made movie of superhero series that I've watched is Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight.
Okay.
Not that I still subscribe to the Dark Knight mythology or structure, but that is one character that I could relate to in a more logical sense.
Okay.
Or I understand in a more logical sense made in a movie.
Okay.
So probably it was Christopher Nolan, then of the Dark Knight. Maybe it's the director, then the character.
Okay.
Perhaps.
The quiz question also needs to be asked. So, you all please put it up in the chat, and we will give away the prize once the team checks out on who's the fastest fingers first. So, presently, Prabhakar is driving which vehicle? And that's going to be your first quiz question. And whichever comes up as the first answer, we are going to give away the prizes. And Siddharth, congratulations. I understand that you have put up the first answer. Looks like you were really near the message counter over there. And you already, I know that you didn't know the question. So that is good. Secondly, what's Prabhakar's favorite food? So if you all have been alert throughout, you all will be definitely knowing. So put it up. Prabhakar's favorite food. Please put it up and we will take it up. And the third question is
pasta.
Ashwini has mentioned pasta. Yes, it is pasta.
And
So Ashwini, you have been very,
two people mentioned Ashwini mentioned pasta.
And Siddharth also, right? So Siddharth is the first one.
First.
Okay, good. So that's great. You all have all been waiting to hear. So that's nice. And our third question, Prabhakar's favorite color. Which one is Prabhakar's favorite color? And yes, the questions are coming, answers are coming in, and great to listen that. Quickly, I'm going on to the questions while I will mention about the winner very soon. So Prabhakar, what was the last book you have read and what was the insights from it, if you can give? This has come from Aftab. He couldn't get this from you during the lunch which you had with him. So over to you, Prabhakar.
To have a lot of good lunch sessions. It was a great time we used to have. After even I missed those lunch sessions in Manikonda canteen with you and a lot of friends that we had over there. Last weekend, I finished the book, a very interesting book I came across. A very interesting part of human history is what happened in the country called Congo. How the country called Congo was exploited by various countries, various colonial powers in the past to exploit the country of its history and minerals. The interesting book I came across, the title of the book is Blood River, which is the Congo River, written by somebody called Tim Booker, who is a journalist and an author of the book. It was one of the most interesting books I read in the recent past, which I actually finished last weekend. The
Thank
message I
you,
had from that
Prabhakar.
book was the importance of human beings being more responsible to the environment and society around us. If not, the results of what can happen to a country is what I could see when I read through that book. Therefore, the whole ESG topic that we talk about today is a lot more relevance than what we really talk about in the business sense.
Thanks, Prabhakar. The next question is from Vijay, and he is asking, "What's your fitness mantra? Years have passed by,
Ageless.
but you look the same
How
with
are you
no
ageless?
change at all." And this is just not the question from Vijay. These questions have been repeated, and there are a lot of thumbs up sign also for this particular question. So over to you. And this question was from me also. What is your fitness mantra, and how do you remain the way you are after the years pass by?
I have to give the credit back to all the good colleagues I have who keep me on my toes. Always. But beyond doing a 45-minute walk in the morning, I don't do anything else. So I don't have any fitness secrets to relieve if I'm fit, even if I'm fit. It's my colleagues who keep me on my toes and therefore intellectually fit, perhaps. 45 minutes walk regime in the morning, which also gives me some time and space to think in the morning to do what I want to do in the day.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhakar.
So, Sonia, since Prabhakar generally gives us actions after the meeting, we can give an action of responding to some of these answers in his free time.
I think we should.
Yeah,
think
sure.
we
So
should.
we will send, because I can't ask all the questions over here. One last question from a lot of Gen Z in the questions over there is that what is that one thing which you would recommend the present generation to come up with a certain skill so that they can tread their career path more faster? What is your recommendation? What is that one skill they should definitely have that it will help them in their career growth?
I'd say two things, Sonia. I would not call those as skills. These are things that everybody already has. But I believe in the world we live in today, the technical skills, the functional skills, the domain skills, all those will keep on rapidly evolving. Those were to anyway adapt. Therefore, I will not talk about them. But I would say two things become very important in the world we live in today. One is, we talked about it earlier, curiosity. And the second is the ability to communicate in very, very simple words what we mean. So I don't call it a communication skill, because communication skill is often mistaken for using a lot of good English in a very long way. That's not what I mean by a communication skill. The ability to simplify and communicate exactly what we say in few words is what I call communication. So both curiosity and communication are two important things which I would say are very relevant, not only for the current generation, but also for the future generations.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
So,
Prabhakar.
Sonia, on behalf of, I'll just ask one question, because I know Srini will not wait. Srini is very impatient when he wants something. And he has one question here for Prabhakar. Where do you get your sense of humor, Prabhakar?
Srini, that's a question I should be asking you. So are you asking me before I ask you? Is that what you're doing today? Maybe. So I should ask you, where do you get your sense of humor? But I'd say, actually, speaking of humor, and people talked about a lot of things about books. Very early in my life, I came across a gentleman called P.G. Wodehouse. Many of you must probably have read him.
My daughter loves P.G. Wodehouse.
Timeless.
Yeah.
So from gentlemen like P.G. Wodehouse, from gentlemen like Bill Watterson, who are able to simplify things and make us put a smile on our face for everything that they think and say, they're very philosophical by nature. If you look at Calvin and Hobbes, it's extremely philosophical by nature. But the way it can bring a smile onto your face is a very unique skill that I believe Bill Watterson has. But anyway, Srini, from colleagues like you and from great people like P.G. Wodehouse and perhaps even Bill Watterson, whatever rubs off, I guess, is what is remaining in me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhakar. And because in paucity of time, we are not able to ask all the questions. Fortunately, Samit took up Srini's question over there. We will be sending all these questions to Prabhakar, or maybe at a free time he can give us the answers and we will send it across to the respective person. Thank you so much, Samit, for accepting this particular task of interviewing.
I enjoyed it. My fan moment, Sonia. It's a fan moment.
It was a fan moment.
I really loved. I am privileged to be sitting here and asking the questions.
We have got a
15 minutes
very, very
beyond
good
schedule,
feedback.
But before I close, Sonia, I'll just take permission from you to just say one thing about this.
Please.
It was a great pleasure for me to interact with all of you, to be part of this conversation. Samit and Sonia and everyone, thank you for organizing this. And Samit, I have to say, I always am very impressed with you, but I was very impressed with the way you're able to draw out people into a comfortable conversation. In fact, many things I spoke of today, I don't ever remember discussing with anyone in a professional context. So I must compliment you for your ability to make people comfortable and to draw them out for a good conversation. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you,
wish you all the very
Prabhakar.
best.
And
Thank you.
I just also wanted to introduce the next session. We are going to have a next session with a leader who has also gone through many groups and departments. A very, very charming leader at that. And we are going to have a very interesting person interview that leader too. So keep tuned on towards this particular space of Know Your Leader, and you will very shortly know who's the next leader coming up. So Prabhakar, thank you for kickstarting this session. And we have got very, very good feedback in the chat. So when you find time, you can have a look at it. And thank you very much, Prabhakar, for giving your time. Thank you, Samit, for taking this up. And thank you, all the associates. We have had an enormous set of attendance for this session. And we have the winners on towards the chat. Y'all can have a look. Magnificent Points is coming your way. Thanks, everybody. And thanks a lot, all the entire IT team and the logistics team for supporting us for this particular program. Thank you, everyone. This is Sonia, Rahul, Kinara signing off along with Prabhakar and Samit. Thank you.